I gotta get this up because I'm hit by now.
We are listening to the rhymes of the infamous Magus Wazir.
1.22 1.22 for a Dream Master, okay? Twin of the iconic One Who Reigns.
That's right, iconic indeed. It is November 10th, 2021. Get your wands, get your popcorn, and pull up a chair because it's Hermetic Hump Day. No, it's Magical Midweek. No, it's not that either. It's the diabolical day after Tuesday. No, it's not that. Dota, what day is it?
It's Wizard Wednesday.
That's right. And it's Elf and Dota channeling in from the Quantum Downs. Welcome, everybody. Bearsnick, how you doing? Did you ever get a McRib?
I have not tasted the McRib yet. I just have not. I don't have my priorities together, to be honest.
That's all right. Cool. Well, I feel like I'm going to talk my ass off today because I have just so many things to talk about. But yeah, I just I don't know if you guys heard it, but that intro music was obviously from the illustrious Magus Wazir. I might use that for every intro music for Wizard Wednesday. I didn't even ask Magus Wazir for permission, so I hope he's cool with it. But
Ring once for permission.
What's that?
I said ring once for permission.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I thought I'd start out with a really big shout out to the Drop magazine. If you guys saw that, they do a full NFT magazine, and the last issue, I think it's issue number 6. They did. It was devoted to the Forgotten Runes Wizards cult. Dota and I did a little interview inside it. I bought a copy myself. And Ozma Bro did an amazing cover for it. The cover is so beautiful that I think I'm going to have to hire him to redraw our Book of Lore cover.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah. Really put me to shame. But yeah, Dota, what did you see the drop? Did you look inside?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. It was gorgeous. It was really, really fun to see it laid out like that. And yeah, we'll have to, I don't know, promote that more. It was really, really fun to get that interview and to talk to them. And I think the magazine is really cool.
Yeah, super cool. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but I gave an interview to this little podcast called Crypto Gaming Institute yesterday. And that was really fun. I'm not going to speak too much about it because you guys should go listen to it. But we talked a lot about the metaverse and the wizard's place in the metaverse. And you can find it on my personal Twitter at ElfJTroll. This guy named Ben is the one who runs the thing, and it's super cool. So check that out. And then another shout out I just wanted to give is I've been seeing these amazing manga panels that Chuck K and Crypto Kel and this manga artist, I think his name is Yuto Yanagi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But my God, these panels are just amazing, super professional.
Yeah. I want like a whole book. I want an entire book of that.
Yes, please. It's so good. The ink work is just shockingly good. Cool. Okay, let's see. What else do I have? Dota, do you got anything? I'm looking through my list.
So we have so many things to cover today. So I mean, maybe operationally, I asked in the Secret Tower. I said, "Hey, folks, what do you want to hear about us from Wizard Wednesday today?" And we got a bunch of good responses. So let me do a rapid fire answer of a bunch of these while you queue up to share a little bit more about the lore. Yep. So I'm just going through here. If anybody has any questions, drop it in the Secret Tower too, or feel free to come up on stage too. So some of the folks said, okay, what do you want to hear about Wizard Wednesday? Well, one said, when trailer? The answer is the current Schedule says the trailer should be somewhere in January. Someone says Donut DAO, where we're at. I'm not really sure. I don't really have a good mechanism for what the Donut DAO should be. We should talk about it more. Game developer partnership update. We met with them yesterday. We've been talking to them pretty much every day. We have basically verbal agreement on like all of the big terms. We have verbal agreement on all of the finer terms. And we're still in like the last round in terms of just getting the lawyers to put everything in black and white and then like have a signed deal. I mean, I don't like we really, really want to have that deal signed before Thanksgiving and like, I mean, even sooner, hopefully, and then be able to announce that, but give us a soft date on that. That's what we're hoping. Affinity stats, where are we at? I'm gonna do it. I think, it might be a good idea for me to just double check, temperature check in the Discord to make sure everybody wants it, but it seems like there's nobody who really doesn't want that. You can see what it's going to be like in the Souls implementation on OpenSea, which is really affinity on OpenSea. I'll try not to talk too much about this in a second, but affinity on OpenSea is this idea of like the top line affinity that makes it easier for new people to understand. I mean, the affinity data is actually richer than what can be understood in OpenSea, but I think for now, if we can just get like, this is a 3 of 5 or this is a 4 out of 4 and like the top affinity is like forest or something. I think that gets us 80% of the way there of how it's being used operationally for trading today. And so, yeah, we'll get that going. I'll pause there. There's a bunch more.
I was just going to say something about the affinities is it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I think it like an argument could be made that it like overcomplicates our tokens. Like most tokens don't have that many like properties, and so I think a lot of people might have a hard time trading and like discerning value if they have to like they're looking at rarity traits and affinities and all that crap. But the flip side is I like how complicated our tokens are because I don't necessarily want people trading on these standard rarity metrics. To me, our tokens are about lore and they're about being complex. They're not it's not just another crypto token that you plug into a spreadsheet and you trade on that. It's so much more complex than that. So affinities are super interesting.
Yeah, and I hope that that getting it on OpenSea, even in the simplified version, just helps people trade on stuff they're trading on anyway, but it's easier because you can see like what are the 5 of 5 like affinities, and you can just filter straight on OpenSea.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Okay, merch drop. Has anything changed here? Nothing's changed in that like it's still coming. We're working on it. Just so everyone is like prepped. So when we sent out the form being like, who wants merch? We got about 180 responses to that form. I would say out of that, maybe 30-ish people said, oh, the price is too high, or I don't know the exact number. But like, so we really only got like a firm commitment, not even firm, but like a serious commitment from like 150 people. So we ordered about 200 boxes. And so I think that, so this first edition box is going to be like 200 orders. I think that'll be like enough, but maybe it'll be a little bit too few. So we're already kind of starting in on like, second edition or whatever. Part of the promise of the first edition was just that they'd be a single run. And so we're already starting on the second run just in case we're like vastly underestimating the number of people that want to buy it. And so what we'll do there really is like, we'll start at the form and give the people who like in order who are on that form kind of the first priority. And if they don't like buy within whatever the first week or something, then people who are like next on the list can kind of order. So I guess we could pass that form around again, and we'll have someone drop it in Discord just to make sure, because we don't even have like 200 people who said that they want it already. So, but we've grown a little bit since then, so it's probably good for people to like drop in again. But yeah, the merch is like for sure happening. Maybe we've gone around about like maybe we should have just done hats and then like could have shipped them out, but no, we wanted to like go over and above with the details. And so the box is nice. Like everything is really nice, and I'm very excited to get that out. Everyone's doing a really good job here. It's just taking us a little bit of time, but it's coming out.
Yeah, and one quick thing on the animated thing, you touched on it. We will be sharing preview stuff of that very soon. So that means character designs, backgrounds. The animatic will be done on Friday. If you don't know what an animatic is, it's basically just taking all the storyboards and then cutting them into a video so that we get the timing down. But yeah, we'll be sharing character designs and backgrounds, I think, very soon. It is going to be tricky because one of my, I guess, questions or concerns is like, when we share a character design of a wizard, is that going to cause FOMO into that wizard? I don't know. And Dota, I can hear your keyboard.
Yeah, well, it's actually a Rubik's cube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if it's going to cause a run on this wizard. I can say that most of the wizards that are going to appear in the trailer are straight up wizards that I have no idea who owns them. They were just like the best wizard for that particular scene. So I'm not trying to play favorites, nothing like that. It's just something that we're going to run into every time we see a wizard in these larger media expressions. So, we'll see how it goes. But you can look forward to that in the next week or so. Dota, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the things we thought about, which is like, oh, we have a script that identifies like 10 wizards. Like, I hope nobody buys up all 10 of those wizards. Like the script like leaks or something, and then they front run the wizards in the script. But I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
if it's not listed, it can't be bought, right? So that's
and we even had to go over I don't know, a legal just talk with
ethics
Mouse
or whatever with the people who touch it.
Saying don't let any of your animators buy these wizards.
Yeah. Which, of course, they never would do consciously, but it's just a new field where it's never been an issue before.
Right.
You could never buy a character.
Right.
Okay, someone else about land drops. There's no real specifics there other than as soon as we kind of get the game deal nailed down with our developer, we'll start to have more details there. I think we want to sell land in the Runiverse, and we'll take care of wizards in the process, though we haven't determined exactly what that is. But yeah, that's coming. Someone else also asked about warriors, and I think the warriors are a little bit different than land. It just depends. We really, really want to do warriors. We talk about this all the time, which is brain and brawn, swords and sorcery, might and magic, wizards and warriors. They go together, and they exist in the same world. I don't know if I could talk about this, but we've done some drafts of the artwork, and they are just sick. I love it. We're so excited to bring them into the world, but that, of course, we're not oblivious to kind of tokenomics in general, and we want to just make sure that gas and market conditions and community desire, and there's all these considerations beyond just we want these tokens to exist. And so we're just trying to be really thoughtful, not rush it. I think the game gives us kind of the catalyst that we've talked about, that it might make sense for warriors to drop, right? Maybe there's some degree of just growth in NFTs. Not saying that we are dropping warriors on Coinbase NFT, but you might imagine a case where Coinbase NFT brings a lot of new people into the NFT space, and so then maybe it makes sense to do warriors. We're very excited about it. We have big plans. We want to do it. It's coming someday, but we won't do it when it's too early is the idea.
Yeah, it's interesting because one way that I distinguish us from other NFT projects is, apes and penguins and whoever else, they are building a culture, a niche culture that is an elite inner circle. And that's great, and it's serving them well. That's a really cool structure. I think one of our biggest differentiators is we are building a world with several subcultures in it, and so to make our world bigger, we need more characters, because it's about the lore. It's not about the floor. A world has all kinds of people in it, and so it just makes sense for us to do warriors, and maybe another one in the next year. and like Dota said, we're doing it carefully. We're doing it with tokenomics in mind. It'll never be rushed or without reason. But if you're building the world, you've got to have a lot of people in it. So
we're putting the cult in culture.
there.
Someone else asked, "What's the age range of the cartoon, like the show with Titmouse, is going to be aimed at?" One of the things that Titmouse talks about, this idea of like adult animation. Elf has talked about like, oh, it's geared towards adults, and I think that's true. But like, I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and like Bear Snake also has like kids in the same age range, and I think like I want to be able to enjoy the show with our kids, but maybe it might have some cursing or something or some violence. Like it's not necessarily like a child's cartoon, but I also don't expect it to be like so out of reach that I couldn't watch it with my preteens.
Yep.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I don't know what that rating would be. Like, what's that rating? Like PG-13 or something? I don't know. Do they even still use those ratings?
Yeah. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to move on to Nosferatu, unless you had something else.
One last thing, which is just be on super alert in terms of Discord security, right?
Yeah.
We like every single day I'm getting like spam, like there's new scams and they get more creative, right? Like a new one now is they go to the mods and claim like a regular member is like scamming them. And so then the mods ban a normal, like innocent person. And so then in like the fray of kind of working out what happened, they sort of like take over, the Discord, and it's happened to Beeple. It happened to 10 TFTK. I don't know how to say it. It happened to, like, I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but it happened to like Kuji Kings. It's just like, we got to be on our alert. All of our mods, we've done like a Discord security review. All of our mods are kind of like aware of the protocol. Just like be super, super careful and let us know if you see anything. And, hopefully that won't happen to us. I can tell you, you guys are in the Discord, so I think but like we are not, there's not like some surprise drop that's gonna happen that we're just gonna like all of a sudden be like, oh, today it's Thursday, there's a new drop, here's the code, like go and get it. Like if you didn't hear it from our voice, like that's not happening. That would be a hack probably. So that's not happening in November. There's no like drop that you need to mint and pay in November, at the very least. So be careful of scammers is what I'm saying.
Yep, for sure. Cool. So I invited Mr. Tom Nosferatu up himself.
Tom,
Tom, we watched your burn stream, and how crazy was it that you pulled Nosferatu?
Oh man,
it's indescribable. I mean, like you can go watch the stream. We're trying to like clip it up into a more digestible highlight reel, but I mean, either way, you can see it on the stream. Like I lost for words, out of body experience. It's just so cool because we spent like literally 2 nights with just trying to hang out with people in the Discord, make the craziest meme of memes that we could, and then we put that in the lore, and we literally burned a witch at the stake, and then we got an immortal result. Like it was too rad.
It was so
crazy.
Perfect.
Like what's crazy is that, like, I think we've talked about this before, that basically when we talk about how the order matters, that's like part of like the equation of the super rares. And so like nobody burned like for almost that whole day, right? It was like hours and hours and hours where like anybody could have burned and like came in and would have had that same result, like the person that burned, someone had burned before you, whatever.
Wow.
And so that's like so just crazy that like, yeah, you went through that big production, and then I was watching it with my wife too, and it was so interesting because it was like the first time I'd seen you speechless, where it was like, he usually has like so much to say.
Oh yeah,
like talking, and then like in that moment, it was just like, I literally was like so happy when I saw that.
That's awesome. It's actually funny because we like kept the party going in a private Discord, me and John and James, and we were theorizing for a good like 20 minutes if you guys did that on purpose so that I would get it.
No.
And we're like, we like went through the game theory and we're like, dude, they couldn't have done it. And it was just like, that
Right.
made it even crazier.
Yeah, because we, like, yeah, well, I think this is known, for example, that like the poltergeist also, the person who pulled the poltergeist is also like a personality. And there was even kind of a question which was like, oh, did you do it on purpose? And the answer is like no. And in fact, like you said, when you think about the game theory, like we can't. So for example, we wanted to make sure that all of the super rares are included, right? Like there are a certain number of super rares which we've said is more than 10. It's a bit more than 10. Um, and we want to make sure that all 1,112 flames, like that all of the super rares show up. If all the flames are burned, all the super rares show up. And so we can't control who burns. And so, yeah, I guess as I just kind of alluded to earlier, when we talk about the order kind of mattering, that's one of the factors involved there. And so, in hindsight, what's funny is I expected that people would kind of accuse us of sort of like, I don't know, cheating down or something. But like one of the things I realized of why kind of public cryptographic commitments in terms of these sorts of things are important is because it's actually the accusation I've recognized now post burn is accusations of favoritism, which is like, oh, did you purposely give, Tom has been your like number one evangelist. He's been like preaching the glories of wizards. He does this big thing and then pulls a super rare. Like, what are the odds? But the fact of the matter is like nobody burned before you for like 8 hours or maybe 6 hours. I don't know the exact number. And so, yeah, I wish that I'd done cryptographic commitments, but then on the other hand, I can't reveal that commitment until all of the flames are used, and they might not ever be used, so I just couldn't think of one at a time. Anyway, we didn't cheat the game, and which is part of why I was just so genuinely thrilled to see you have it, because it was just like the odds fell into your favor, and we just love it so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to tell because I'm such a clown, and I, like you said, I almost never run out of things to say. But I mean everything. I mean, basically everything that I say in my videos. Like I'm not a millionaire, guys. Like I quit my job recently. But I mean, if I strike out in a year, I'm screwed, and I'm going hard on Wizards because it's not about just the fact that you guys are a great team, and just because I like the NFTs and because I think we're in a big cycle for crypto, etc. It's because I can actually have a role in it being successful. So all the money that I pour into Wizards, which is a lot, like I said, for me, like as percentage of net worth, I am not messing around. But yeah, I'm betting on myself. I'm betting on the community and great wizards like Magus Wazir, and I'm snubbing a ton of people by not naming more names. But either way, everyone involved is what I'm betting on every time I buy another wizard. I'm betting on all you. It's really amazing, and so yeah, just bringing it full circle. The Nosferatu thing to happen when I've had that much conviction, like, man, if I knew how to cry, it would have happened on
camera. Well, you'll get that cat soon. So
that's what it's all about, really.
Right. Yeah. Well, what?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. One of the things that you and I have been talking about in the DMs, Tom, that we can open it up here. And I'm curious to hear what the wizards say. It's a relatively small group here. It's about, I think there's maybe 6 or 7 of us right now. One of the things that Tom and I were discussing was this idea around folks who collect a bunch of wizards, but then they hold more wizards because they love wizards, but they hold more wizards than they can write lore for. And we've been scheming, and Tom's had some really interesting ideas in terms of like, is there a way? We've talked a lot about a way to have people earn a wizard through like writing lore. And I think one of the ways is just like doing wizard commissions. But almost, is there a way that we can do something with smart contracts and wizards? Is there a thing that might exist that's almost like I hesitate to say, but like an option, which is sort of like, or you could like a lore, like loan to lore or something like this, where the idea is like, is it possible to construct a smart contract such that I could loan you a wizard, you could write lore for that wizard, and kind of be that wizard in the way that like any other participant does, but with like much less money up front. And then as you're kind of telling that story, is there a way that sort of the original owner and the person, the storyteller, can kind of be incentivized in the same direction with on the any upside that ends up happening? So I think like I definitely don't want to over financialize wizards, but on the other hand, I think as we do see our floor price realize, it's not lost on me that like if we say wizards are for everyone, but then wizards have a 10th floor or something, that just would mean like, well, wizards are just for like really rich people. And so how can we involve, but then on the other hand, like we're not trying to drive the floor price down necessarily. So it's just how do we kind of like, I think smart contracts with NFTs, with this idea of like financially incentivized storytelling, maybe something like that, uh, provides new opportunities for structure where you can like I don't know, loan to lore is this like concept we're exploring. So if you're interested in these kinds of mechanisms, if you have some ideas, if you're in the coding guild, we should like have some more conversations about that. I mean, yeah. So there's just some ideas we're thinking about. Do you want to add anything to that, Tom? So while you're here.
Yeah, so I think that you perfectly captured kind of the dilemma. And just to give you kind of a more personal example, again, I've got 33 wizards. Every single one was like handpicked, not just because I needed a head, but I was like, that's a cool wizard, and I can see a story being written for them. And then I've got all these friends who are amazing at memes and stuff, but they didn't just get like a crap ton of money from an ENS airdrop or something, right? So they aren't in the position to just be like, yeah, Tom, I believe in these pixels as much as you do. I'll yeet $5,000 into this thing, like, but I want them to be wizards with me. And so I'm like, how do I get them involved if they either don't have enough money or they don't have enough time to get involved, whatever. And again, wizards are for everyone, but the only reason I'm in Web3 is because I realized that like it sounds dirty, but kind of money makes everything in the world like turn. But the cool thing is, I think if we reframe it as value is what makes the world turn, then we can use those kind of human incentive, like dopamine receptors of like, ooh, I like doing this and I get rewarded for doing it, so I'll do more of that. And that does unfortunately mostly come from money. So if we reframe it as value, then having the prospective wizard or talent like lock up some of their ETH that they have, they collateralize the wizard with. Sorry, running up to my office now. My wife's off the parent-teacher conference. If they lock up some ETH, then they actually have skin in the game, and so they care as much as. I mean, the reason I care about making my lore is because, again, there's financial incentive. There's value to it. It's what I care about because that's where I put my money, and vice versa. So if I could get other people to experience that without taking, a massive financial risk of $5,000, then they win, I win, and everyone wins because even the people who can't currently afford a floor wizard, they can get involved and lore to own type deal that you were talking about their way into owning the wizard. So the floor can still be pushed up on purpose, which then flywheels because you want the floor to go up so you make better lore so the whole world expands.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's what we want to incentivize the most, which is like, for me, again, we it's not that we don't, like, we understand we want to be careful about the floor dynamics, but I also want to be careful about overemphasizing them. It's like we have folks like yourself who have, a few dozen or more wizards. There's just not enough time in the day to really like tell lore about that one character, really be that character. And so is there a mechanism where you can kind of have your cake and eat it too? And I think, we're exploring a lot of firsts here, both in like decentralized storytelling and incentive systems. And it seems like there's a smart contract possibility here that could make, like, we could win in all of these ways. So I'm drafting up some docs, trying to think through what those would be. And I think, very curious to hear other people's thoughts there.
Decentralized storytelling is, thank you for pointing that one out, Dota. Like, I mean, of course you knew it and you thought of it, but I forgot to mention that that probably is more important than any of these other reasons to me, right? Like whether I want to hook a buddy up to be able to work for equity in a wizard or someone else writes it. I want to expand the universe of people who are willing to write it and write it from a sense of ownership instead of a sense of
Yep.
commission. I love that
Yep.
people are doing commissions,
Yep.
but the commissions are going to be crazy if it's from someone who's like, oh, I am this wizard potentially forever. So that decentralization of that story is huge for me.
I totally agree. Hi, Nikita.
Hey guys.
Hey, Nikita, give us the imposter. Thanks. Love
Hey
you.
Tom. I'm sorry guys for my monotone voice. I'm a bit sick right now. But yeah, I just wanted to say, huge lover of wizards. Everything you guys are doing is, absolutely crazy. And all the people that you kind of came into the community, it's like a testament to you guys, to everything that you made. I really, really like the idea that Dota, you and Tom have been talking about, because, for instance, for me, I love all my wizards. Like, I picked every single one of them after the mint. But I've started writing, but obviously I won't be able to write, for instance, for a decent amount of them. So the dynamics that you guys are talking about, I think, yeah, they're very cool.
Cool.
To me,
Hope you feel better.
the flip side of this, and I'm not going to pretend to know the answer, or the best way to handle this, but I also want to I also don't want to incentivize like hoarding of wizards. And look, if you own a lot of wizards, that's totally fine. I'm not trying to attack you at all. But I want as many people as possible to just have their own wizard and just take true ownership of it. But at the same time, yes, I also want every wizard to have lore written about it. So yeah, I don't, maybe what you guys are talking about are like the best solution to this little issue. Um, but yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I wanted to say something else that Tom's burn made me think of, and it's about this notion of putting your mark on the world, putting your rune on the door. I long ago a few months ago, Dota and I did a Twitter Spaces with D's, and I made this rant about how wizards are artists and coders and writers and creative people. And that's totally true. I believe that 100%, because uh, artists and writers, they take base materials and they transmute them into beautiful things of power. But ever since I made that rant, I regretted leaving out one crucial thing, and that is, you don't have to be an artist or a writer or a programmer or a musician to put your rune on the door. All you need is to have a lust for life and the courage to speak your truth. And a prime example of this is when I was watching Tom burn his wizard, and his moron global antics, and the memes that he's making. Like, if you guys look at Tom's Book of Lore entry, it's hilarious, and it's just this crazy meme. And there's nothing else like it in the Book of Lore, at least that I've seen. And you look at it, and you're not seeing somebody who draws well or somebody who writes beautifully written stories. But what I am seeing is the mind of a wizard that is wild and unique and weird and unusual, and it just makes me smile and wonder what the hell is going on in this guy's head. What kind of mark is this guy putting on the world? And I don't know the answer, but I want to just keep looking at it because I'm engaged and I know this guy is a wizard. His rune is unique and it's speaking the truth. And so I I think like the cult is like large enough for all kinds of wizards. We want people like Crypto Kel, who write really beautiful stories, and O and Zayla Soul and Magus Devon, and artists like Bread, and Oz, to make all these really beautiful, like, quality professional pieces of work. But I also think like wizards like Tom, who are just making like just insane memes, and then of course Magus Wazir, who kind of does everything. Um, if you want to write in the Book of Lore and you don't consider yourself like a quote unquote writer or artist, just speak your truth, man. Just put your lore in the book of lore, and it's gonna stand out. It's gonna be unique. Go ahead.
As I've been seeing some of the other, like, let's say, cults in crypto, so I think Temple DAO comes to mind, for example. So, like, if you're not familiar with Temple DAO, they have this, like, an old fork that has this really elaborate sort of, like, initiation process, right? And you have to, like, join a voice chat and, like, sing a hymn.
Lols.
And, like, like KYC your grandmother and donate some blood, and it's like a lot.
I threw some subtle shade at them. I don't make a habit of like pooping on other projects in the space because if Web3 wins, we all win. But God, the stuff that you have to do like is so anti to Web3 principles and decentralization. It actually makes me mad, and I kind of feel like they need to get put on blast. Fuck your walled garden. Sorry, again.
No, it's fine. Yeah. And one of the things that I look at that and I think like, oh wow, like they're like a cult, like they're freaking me out, like and how they're kind of managing it. But what you actually see in the back channel is less about like people who are like for real into it, and they're more just like, yeah, I jumped through the hoops because I think it's gonna pump, but like it's really annoying, and I know they're gonna waste my time in a bunch of other ways down the road. And so like. Yeah, it's almost like resented as a cult. And I was thinking about like just what's maybe like the core of like what does the Wizards cult require of you? And this isn't like something that Elf and I necessarily like have really talked about too much. But one of the ideas I was like spinning on is almost we don't require like initiation rites. We don't require like the blood of your firstborn. We don't require you to come in and like give, recite chants or something like this. Really what we just ask is like that you create, right? That you create something, or as like Elf might say, like speaking your truth, right? It's, it's whether it's a piece of artwork or a poem or a song or a video. It's the Wizards cult, like one of the essences in terms of what we're doing here is that just, if we ask anything of you, it's just, to create something authentic.
Yeah, in that podcast the other day, I was talking about like the difference between NFTs and other crypto tokens, and I was talking about specifically how ours is different from others. And our Wizards, I don't think they necessarily trade on rarity metrics. Magus Wazir's wizard is not even a rare wizard. Like all the parts that make up Magus Wazir's wizard are pretty common. But his wizard is legendary because of everything he's done with it. And I would rather take something that's legendary than something that's, quote, rare any day. I think like that's the difference. And so, yeah, when you're speaking your truth, when you're creating, when you're taking control of your token and you're making it more than what it was than when you got it. Like, I think that's what this cult is about. So yeah. But Dota, I will say if we want to be a religious tax exempt organization, then we might have to start instituting these dogmatic practices.
Right. We might need daily prayer.
Yeah. Yep. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, daily donut for everyone.
Daily jelly donut.
I told Dota that our biggest goal, our end game is not to become a company with $1 billion valuation. It's not to become the biggest metaverse. It's to attain the tax exempt status. That's our final goal.
Yes. Hey, you know what? And for plausible deniability, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take the fall as the cult leader. And honestly, like I'm not even in the same Discord as you. Why? Firewall that shit. All right.
Yeah.
David Koresh ain't got shit on me.
Is Nosferatu
maybe that's bad.
Is Nosferatu going to be an icon?
In that podcast you were doing, Elf, I really liked how you touched upon how each wizard should have a little bit touch of humility to them, almost like a character arc built into the story.
Yeah.
One of my favorite characters is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, he was born a prince, he had everything he needed, but like his banishment, everything he went through to regain that stature is what we all really crave in a story. when we follow that, you know. Yeah.
Yep. It's all about the character arc, struggles and conflict. A perfect character with everything given to them and all almighty powerful. They're boring. They're boring characters. It's sort of the difference between Saruman and Gandalf. But not to go too deep into Tolkien lore. But speaking of lore, I think I did tease that we were going to talk about some map lore. So there's kind of two components to this particular topic. So one thing is I am currently compiling a gigantic master lore document. And the reason I'm doing this is for a few reasons. Okay, so first of all, so what it's going to be is I'm going to give like descriptions to every single item, spell, familiar, head type, everything that's in the collection. And I know that long ago, a few months ago, I said I was not going to do that. And my reasons then were, number one, I did not want to put limitations on the imaginations of you all. I didn't want to like contradict anything that you were trying to write about your own wizard. And then number two is I was imagining like the show and the comics as those were being released, those would be far better vehicles for delivering this kind of information in a more entertaining way, rather than just like reading it from a simple, dry blog post. But as this whole project has progressed, I'm realizing that many of you really want to know about all these things. Zayla Soul's been DMing me, asking me a lot about this stuff. And secondly, it's just like a good framework for a lot of you to write lore on top of. And then also like the show and the comic and these other studios that we're talking to, they are asking for this information. And if I don't give it to them, then they're just going to write their own stuff. And then it's going to contradict the narrative that's already in the collection. So I'm already writing all this stuff out, and I've decided that I'm going to release it to you all. So just a few examples is like just like the simple mushrooms. There's a red and a green mushroom in the collection, and like since I didn't write anything yet, the cool thing was like Magus Devon of the Quantum Downs created the quantum mushroom. And so if I had written something very specific about the green mushroom, we may have missed out on the quantum mushroom. So even though I'm writing all this stuff out, I'm still trying to keep it very broad and generalized so that there's enough room for you all to still create and extrapolate from this base layer of lore. But yeah, I also, one of the studios asked for the map, and I gave it to them, and they said, their first question was, can you tell us about all these places? And so I handed them back a very detailed annotated map that really described in depth more about what all these places are. And I've talked about some of them in past Wizard Wednesdays, but I thought it would be interesting to sort of go over a little more detail in what I gave them. And again, eventually I will put something like this on the website where hopefully you'll be able to click on a place and a little pop-up will occur and you'll be able to read more about it. But a couple things to know about this map is, just like any map, when you're zoomed really far out, it's only labeling the major landmarks. But then as you zoom in, more and more landmarks pop up and get labeled. And so right now, the current map is only labeling the major landmarks. But yes, if you zoom in, you're going to see a lot more stuff. And so, yeah, and of course, the map is going to expand at some point as well. So let me start with let me just go over some of these things. You guys might find it interesting. So let me start in the south, where the Chronomancers Riviera is, and the sand. This is generally the whole desert region. It's generally arid and inhospitable. It's a bewildering place of mirages. Most wizards, if they want to traverse this land, they have to arm themselves with psychedelics like peyote. Then, of course, we've got Chronomancers Riviera, which we've talked about before. It's ruled generally by the Yellow Hats. They sort of party all night. It's sort of like an Ibiza or Las Vegas type place. They're generally very shallow and carefree. Before I go further, one other thing about this map. Yeah, this is what I meant to say. The design of this map, it's very deliberate. Okay, I put a lot of these things next to each other to sort of generate conflict. So I put the Yellow Wizard Haven, a place of carefree youth, right next to the Quantum Shadow, one of the biggest threats in the whole world. That was done intentionally as sort of like a story driver. And then the only thing separating these two things is the Battle Mage Mountains. Um, I put the Blue Wizard Bastion, which are a bunch of like academic scientific wizards. I put them next to the Infinity Veil, the Dreammaster Lake, and the Sacred Pillars, which are the exact opposite. Those are some of the most magical, powerful places in the whole map. So there's conflict there. The Fae and the Thorn are two like sides of the fairy folk. They're right next to each other, so there's conflict there. The Red Wizard Capital and Alisar's Keep. These are two oligarchic centers of commerce. They're connected by an oxbow. Rivers are generally seen as like cheap methods for transporting goods, but a very awkward type of river is an oxbow. It's not very efficient. So there's conflict there. There's probably a lot of talk about straightening out these oxbow or digging a canal in between it, but then you'd be damaging the history. Okay, so there's conflict there. Kelpies Bay, another center of commerce, but all the ships that are all the merchant ships that come into it, they're constantly plagued by kelpies, who are these obnoxious water beasts who are constantly drowning the ships of commerce. So again, I built this map with a lot of conflict in mind. So anyway, starting in the south, after Chronomancers Riviera, we moved to Kelpies Bay. Yes, there's a lot of ports of maritime commerce. The supply chain is often plagued by kelpies and pirate wizards. Okay, and then moving further west, we've got Callista's Citadel, which is a cultural mecca, very cosmopolitan. Moving further up, there is the Wild. This is a vast, untamed region full of wild beasts, wild peoples, and adventures. And then going north is the Northern Mountains, a strange place full of contradictions. So yeah, like I said, it's dominated by the Blue Hats, which are very science and tech oriented. But the region also has a lot of powerful magical points like the Sacred Pillars, the Weird House, and Dreammaster Lake. And then northeast, this is the Psychic region, home to the Infinity Veil, the Cuckoo Land, and Hughmaster Pass. It is suspected that the White Wizards are concentrated in this area. And then the eastern region is the darker region, where there's the Vampire Mist, the Thorn, and the Quantum Shadow. And let me talk about the Quantum Shadow for just a second. So, this is where, okay, this is fun, I think. Everyone in the world has a different interpretation of what the Quantum Shadow is. Some think it's the greatest threat ever. Some think it's no big deal. But it is definitely used as a scapegoat and a source of demagoguery by political manipulators. It is a source of profound but unwieldy magic. Okay, so like I said, the wizards in the world, they've all got different interpretations of it. But also, like in the wizard's cult, meaning you guys, you all have all different interpretations of it. I can assure you that as the de facto dungeon master, I guess, I know exactly what the Quantum Shadow is, and that will be revealed someday. But just as the wizards in the lore world are trying to figure it out, I think it's fun if like you guys try to figure out what the Quantum Shadow is. Speculate on it. Write in the book of lore. How does your wizard deal with it? How does your your faction deal with it? I think it's fun to like sort of blur the line between the lore world and the real world, because that's already what's happening. You guys are identifying with your wizard NFT, and when the metaverse is completely pervasive, then the blur will be erased, and we will be truly living in the Runiverse. So yeah, any questions about that? That's roughly what my map is saying. I still left a lot of details out, but yeah, I feel like I just talked a lot.
I'm happy for it. I think people want to know the details. Yeah, and I think we're like really excited to kind of
Are
publish
you
some
posting
of
that
the.
map?
I will eventually. Yes.
Oh, the map. Well, the map is already on Twitter. Like it's the pinned tweet on Twitter. If you haven't seen the map.
Yes, but it's not. It's not annotated.
Oh, it's not
Yep.
annotated. Yeah, but we'll make like an annotated version. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah, but yeah, it'll be a part of this master lore doc. Like I said, I'm gonna write out what every item is, what every familiar is, and the caveat, as always, is even if I write something and it contradicts what you are writing about your wizard, that's totally fine. And I think we also have a lore share today. Let me see if he's in the chat. SPZ.
While you're doing that, burn Warbledegog. I don't know how he says it. Warbledegog, donut. Just burned Void Disciple Zagan of the Catacombs and returned with the Golden Lich Zagan of the Royal Witch.
Oh, the Golden Lich.
Really nice.
Oh, sweet.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, the Liches are some of my favorite souls.
Someone asked, SPZ, I believe, told me this, where he was like, we saw that the Skellies come out, Skellies on the other side, and he said, as he was going into the flame, he said, well, we've died once already. And so the Skellies, they seem to be passing through pretty well so far.
Yeah. It's there's the sorcerer Elias. One thing to keep in mind about our collections is there's going to be a lot of overlap between there's skeletons in the wizard cult and then there's skeletons in souls. You're probably going to see certain features that. Hey, sorcerer Elias.
Hey guys.
I was just going to just say this one thing. There's probably going to be a lot of overlap between the warriors and wizards as well. So it's one reason for this is that's just how cults work, and people are part of many things, and I imagine all of you will maybe want to play part wizard and part warrior and part soul. So anyway, look forward to that.
There's that piece that Oz did as well, where that wizard was carrying what looked like a melee weapon, the crystal staff, and it was doing like a melee move. So I totally can see some wizards doing some hand to hand.
Yeah.
And I think Kel also wrote some lore for his wizard where one of his alchemists does hand to hand combat as well.
Yep, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. These divisions can be blurred.
I have a wizard I'm still need to write lore for. He's Danny the Janny. He has a broomstick and he's a battle mage. He doesn't actually practice magic. He LARPs as a wizard, but he just bashes crap with his broom. So
yes,
that's hilarious.
That's great. I love it. Sorcerer Elias, do you have lore for us today?
Yeah, sure I do, and I love all this talk of lore. It's so awesome. It's one of the things that brought me into this project, really. In fact, I started writing lore for when I was looking for my first wizard. I think I wrote probably 3 pieces for ones that I wanted but never ended up getting. So, and I've had the great fortune of all this talk about the commission and stuff that you talked about earlier. I love it. And I'm really, really grateful to be able to write some lore for those few that want to commission or get help. And I've told many that have asked too, is like, don't worry, write your story or speak your truth, as you say, Elf, because there's no bad lore, right? It's your story.
Yep, exactly.
And so the one I was going to read today is a commission that I did for Warble, or what'd you say, Tom? Super happy to see I wrote the lore for Zagan as well, and I was so relieved to see him come out spectacularly on the other side of the flames. But what I wanted to read today was it's not in the book yet because it's actually lore for a soul. And again, it's for my man Warble, and he burnt this amazing kobold. In fact, it was a kobold, one of those rainbow bodies, or what are Technicolor bodies, and he came out the other side looking so badass with the scythe, the kobold skull, and this like rainbow skeleton body. So this is the lore for grave robbing kobold Poppy of the Technicolor Nightmare, which I think is hilarious.
Awesome name.
Yeah.
I love it.
And for as you know, I like to set up my lures with a little intro. And I spoke to Arad, or I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, the owner of Master of Spots, because I thought his sort of perspective on kobolds would be a cool sort of mood setter. So here goes. Chapter 1 for Grave Robbing Kobold Poppy of the Technicolor Nightmare. While not the most intelligent species of all the lands, by a fair margin, I may add, your average kobold still has an intrinsic way of resourcefulness about them, and a deftness of skill and self-preservation not often found in other lesser species. Interestingly, this does not extend to their ability to barter or accrue wealth, ideal marks for a table of cards, for instance, or perhaps they simply have an entirely different system of valuation. Their heightened senses make them exceedingly difficult to corner, their wiles and tendency towards tricks making them difficult to predict. This may or may not be accredited to their relatively low intellect, but for the most part, they make for the most exquisite prey and present the most rewarding chase, pushing both hunter and hunted to their limits. It is, after all, the fruit whose skin provides the most onerous obstacle, which offers up the sweetest of flesh. The Hunt by Master of Spots Hunter. Poppy had never been a good kobold, nor not like his brother Peppy, who could do no wrong. Where Peppy seemed to possess the Midas touch, finding luck at every turn, Poppy's tale was a sad string of one bad turn after another, which had ultimately led to his quite spectacular death, ironically turning out to be the change in fortunes he had always sought in life, yet had never found. The sacred flame had not been meant for him, of course, though find him it had. His attunement to all colors had consistently been his most favored trait, and while it had made him a pariah as a youth, his iridescent ability to mix, fade, blend, and otherwise blend light was what had granted him his final journey on behalf of a peculiar and penultimate client. The details were fuzzy, apparently dying does that, but Poppy remembered dancing flames, moving shadows, and a high-pitched scream. "Begone, ye filth!" he exclaimed, swinging his scythe in a lazy arc towards the malodorous zombie in his path. "This bounty belongs to me, you pile of pus," he continued as the disgusting being stumbled aside, leaving his path open to the tomb ahead. As crypts went, it was rather unremarkable, but if Poppy was good at one thing, it was following his nose and ears. Well, what passed for nose and ears now? Towards the scent of treasure. And what fortuitous run he had been blessed with after his accidental stumble through the fire and consequent eviction from the quantum shadow. After shedding his own mortal self and being resurrected as something else, his unique and multicolored bony form had become his new sigil of status and renown. Reaching into his pouch, he withdrew a rancid strip of flesh and dangled it in front of Sniff. His familiar had not fared as well in their metamorphosis. However, Poppy was not one to waste potential and had discovered that, with the right kind of motivation, his zombie rat could still sniff out nearly anything. "Go on, Sniffles, find what I seek, and this fabulous feast will be yours." He waved the putrid meat once more before stuffing it away, and watched the disgusting thing amble away, burrowing into the grave. Channeling a trickle of magic to let the light bend ever so slightly around him, he sat down to relax and have a well-earned rest while his familiar did all the hard work. He had a very good feeling about the potential of this looting, perhaps even something worthy to present to the High Liches. Lost as he was in these delightful thoughts, he was somewhat baffled by a sudden presence before him, peering down as if they could penetrate his illusion. "Ah, yes, here you are, little kobold," came the deep voice from beneath the deep, dark hood. "Oh yes, we can see you quite well, despite your tricks. No need to stand, this will take but a moment." Scrambling nonetheless, Poppy stood and took 2 steps back. "What devilry is this?" he asked unsteadily, shaking his scythe menacingly. "Fret not, refracted one. We are not here to do you harm," the figure said, still motionless. "We have been following you, and my master sees great potential, should you be willing to aid us. In a few moments, your pet will return to you bearing a seemingly unremarkable bauble. All we ask is that you keep it safe for now, and when the time comes, you must bring it to a very specific place. Fail to do so, and you may find your future less fortunate." "How do you know me?" asked Poppy, looking around. The mindless zombie nearby had lost interest and seemed not to notice the ethereal figure. My time here is short. You must make your choice. I can only advise you, do make the correct one, for my master is as generous to those who obey as he is intolerant of those who do not. With that, the figure popped out of existence in a shower of purple sparks. Startled, Poppy jumped back with a squeal as something nibbled at his skeletal toes. Sniffles! He cried out, swatting at the damn thing. Looking indignant, his familiar's beady eyes looked meaningfully towards his pouch, something gleaming between his petrified jaws. Ah, sorry, old chap. Something has me on edge. Here, a trade, then, he said, as he took out the rancid treat again, sniff-dropping what appeared to be a medallion of sorts into his outstretched hand. Slightly larger than a typical coin, it was wrought from a dark metal, engraved by a single rune on both sides. One showed infinity, the other omega. Most peculiar, he muttered, stuffing it into his pouch, setting off after Sniffles, who, after quickly devouring his snack, had run off again, his undead nose catching a whiff of yet another prize. Yes, this is most certainly going to be a fine day, he thought, as he followed his familiar, the thought of more loot pushing the arcane encounter to the back of his mind. That's it.
Very cool. I like that you mentioned the high liches. And, his brother Peppy.
The lucky Peppy, the happy one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one thing that I've noticed that's happening is you guys are like combining your wizards for crossover lore. Do you own Peppy as well, or is that someone else's? Or
I do not own Peppy, no, but I have written lore for another Peppy. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Sorcerer Elias.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Yeah, I love it.
We're a little over time, but if there's any other questions or comments, I know we always call this thing an AMA, but I don't know if we take enough questions to be called an AMA. But if there's nothing else, this has been Elf.
And Dota.
And
Lasso.
And Bearsnake.
And Nosferatu, Sorcerer Elias.
And SPZ.
Wobber gobble gobble.
Love you. Go hug your loved ones. I love you all. Bye.
All right. Channeling out from the quantum.